Hi, I'm Tabitha Hughes, and I am here to take the This Is Who I Am challenge. Um, I am a 52-year-old chronic pain patient with a variety of health problems. I, um, I'm very fervent about education. I was a college professor for about 20 years and got a PhD in biochemistry. I did a master's and a thesis master's and then chose to go on for the PhD. I'm very fervent about education and I'm very fervent about animals. I have a nonprofit organization that I'm trying to get start up and running where I not just take in foster animals and help them, but I also help indigent people that need money and funding, emergency funding for their animals. I started the organization because I had a dog that uh, had a gallbladder problem, and needless to say, she passed, and I did my own necropsy to figure out why, and all the vets were wrong. So that's why I started it up, and it was going to cost $6,000 to do an exploratory surgery, which was crazy. Anyway, so let's see. So I'm fervent about animals. I'm fervent about education. I was a good educator. I taught at a variety of different institutions, some of which that were 90% African American, some of which that were 90% Caucasian, and some of which were half and half. I think I really did a great job because really at the one institution that I only taught for about a year and a half, it was 90% African American. And when things started hitting the fan and I started having conflicts with the newly promoted, I don't know, I don't even know what she was, not the provost, but I don't know, chair. No, she wasn't a chair, the dean. She thought she knew everything. She couldn't even turn on a computer. But needless to say, we had we had problems. She was very racist, and we didn't get along because I wasn't racist, and I wasn't going to bow down to her either. And I don't believe anybody should, not of any color, race, or descent. But I remember the president of the university calling my students in, and like I said, this was 90% blacks, and they told her that, my God, I was the best at teaching them things that were the hardest to learn. And had it not have been for me teaching them the way that I taught them, they would have never had got it. And it would have just went way over their heads. And this was mostly math stuff. I mean, I'm not a great mathematician, but I can teach people how to do conversion and metrics fairly easily. Very, 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 very easily. I'm fervent about being fair and honest and helping people, helping all people of all race, creeds, and color. I just wish I had the same respect. People look at me and they say, well, you sure do look young for your age. Well, yeah, maybe I do look young for my age. My mother did too. She was so much more beautiful than I was, but I think they faulted her for that too, and I'm getting faulted for it now too. I remember teaching at the local community college just part-time and as an adjunct, and I was in the copying paper one time, copying my test, and a lady came in there and said, this is not for student use. And I'm like, going, excuse me? Here I was 20 years old, 21 years old. And she said, my God. She said, you look like you're 17. She goes, I thought you were a student. I'm sorry. I showed her my badge, and she was like, I'm so sorry. And she goes, Dr. So-and-so. And I said, actually, it's just master's right now. I said, I'm working on my doctorate. But in teaching students, I just want to say that I was very good at it. I was very good at it because my father was a veteran. He died from Agent Orange, and I'm probably affected by that. My younger brother was affected by that, and he's got schizophrenia. I'm more physically affected by that. And I might have been somewhat mentally affected by it when I was younger. I struggled through high school. I had a 1.9 GPA. I didn't graduate with honors. I did take optional courses that were above and beyond the high school level, and it could have been one of the reasons why I had a lower GPA, because really, if you take those optional courses and you have a 1.9, it's more like a 2.9. But I never used that to my advantage, and unfortunately that screwed my career up in UT Knoxville and becoming a veterinarian. However, I learned from that. I learned what I was lacking as a student, and I was able to use that to help these students that I taught that were in community colleges and in other colleges that they had been bamboozled into paying because they really didn't need it, but it did help some of them get into their fields, which was either pharmacology or med tech or whatever. So I can't say it was all that bad, but they just charged way too much. They really didn't need this to go into a doctor's office and to be polite and to say, I'd like to start off as a med tech at $7 an hour and volunteer like I did at vet clinics all the time from the time I was 13 years old, or maybe even 11, you know. And but anyway, you know, I had more black people come to bat for me than I think I did whites. As a matter of fact, when I got into my community college, it was about 50-50, and the only time I ever had problems, it was always the entitled middle-class whites or some guy I went out with 5 years ago who had his own family and who would write something negative about me. Otherwise, you know, I had this one student who came to me and said, I really want to go and be a nurse. She said, but I can't get this. I've taken this course 3 times. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why I can't understand it. And I told her my story. And I told her exactly what to do. And I told her this was not just for my class. This was for anyone's class. And I learned this in my master's program and later in my bachelor's program. I realized it, and that's how I got through my bachelor's, and then I finally got into my master's and then into my PhD, and it worked. And it was a lot of work. I would sit literally with a tape recorder. And every 55-minute lecture, you can imagine having to rewrite that lecture. I was not I had ADD, and I was, you know, I really got nothing from many lectures. And I wasn't the only one. I mean, I learned that. But needless to say, this person ended up with a B in the class. She had failed the first test, and that's when she came to me, and I explained to her exactly what to do. And she got it, she did it, and she got a B in the class. And she came to me afterwards and thanked me emphatically. She said, without you, I don't know what I would have done. And she went on to other courses and did fine. She got the basics from me, and she took that, and she ran. And I'm hoping today that she's a nurse, and she ascertained her goals. Her boyfriend was wanting to go into med school, and he was more into science and was better at it. And they sat next together, but I always watched, and they were not cheaters, so I didn't even think about that. That was, I mean, I did. I mean, you have to think, you know, this person made a B on this test. Let's kind of watch them the second test. Well, you know, the fact that she failed the first test didn't tell me too much, and he aced it, you know. I mean, that was kind of a telltale sign that they weren't cheating. And then in the second test, again, after I discussed with her how to do this, um, I I gave everybody a chance. And not everybody took those chances. I had students, specifically one that knew my sister-in-law, and I guess she thought knowing my sister-in-law was going to work in her favor, and she just fell 29. We're not talking 50. We're not talking 70 or 60s. I'm talking about 29, I think, or 30 on her first exam. And she came to me, and I said, you know, just come to my office. Let's look at your Scantron sheet. Let's look and see if maybe you just got one off on the Scantron sheets, because people do have eye problems, especially when you're doing Scantrons. And I didn't always use Scantrons, but I did, you know, for, you know, years, a little bit later down the road. And she never came to talk to me. She didn't know. She didn't study. She didn't try. And then I had people that really tried that just couldn't make it. And then I had people who wouldn't come to class. And what can you do? All I know is that I don't think anybody that knew me or knew who I was would classify me as being a racist. I'm very anti-racist. I love people. I love all people. I think they all deserve a chance. Anyway, my biggest fault right now and my biggest problem is getting motivated to go through my mother's things alone. It's very hard. I can't do it. I don't know if I can help other people until I help myself. It would be nice if I had a friend who could just come over and help me go through these boxes, but it just tears my heart out. I don't know what to keep, what not to keep. I took a trip after my mother passed, about almost a year to her death, and I couldn't be here. And I went to Hawaii. I used to be a very avid scuba diver and an avid snow skier, and I'm sorry, I'm a fish. I'm a Pisces, and I love the water. And everybody asked me, you know, they thought I was rich or something because I could spend 6 weeks in Hawaii, but I spent it with friends, Puerto Rican friends, black friends, and Caucasian, as well as Hawaiian. That's how I afforded. I bought a $500 plane ticket, which I think pretty much anybody can get $500. And then I spent about a week alone at a really nice place. Not nice place, but a good place for me anyway. It was off the beach, $75 a night. I spent $400 to stay there. And then I moved on. It was the most beautiful place. And everybody asked me why I was there. And I told them I was finding my soul. I had given mine to my mother. And I really believed that. I gave up my soul for my mother. And I would pretty much do that for anyone. It's hard to find that. I would help anyone. And you know, it's funny because I have friends now that are losing their parents or having to take care of their parents, and I would be the first one there to help them if they needed me. But I've got so much I need to do around here that, you know, it's funny that I can go and help them, but they don't seem to care to want to come and help me back. So, anyway, I don't know. I'm strong-willed, and a lot of guys don't like strong-willed women. And I guess if I was a servitude of man, you know, it would be different, but I'm not. I believe in giving and taking. I don't believe in not paying for a man to go out to eat. I don't believe in making them feel worse about themselves if they don't have the money. So I'm just an open, honest person that tries to do what I feel I can handle and do it the best that I can and try to help others. Anyway, this is who I am. Thank you.